You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Good evening. Welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. I'm your host, Kev. You can follow me on Twitter at Dynasty_GOAT. We've got the best two tonight. I've got my co-host, Ali, who you can follow on Twitter at FF Dynasty Grill. Good evening, Ali. How are you doing?
Good evening, Kev. Yeah, I'm doing really good, thank you. It's the best time of the year, to be honest. We've got all the charity tournaments going on. The drafts are now finishing. Some of them are now starting. I'm absolutely lost with all the rules of all the different charity tournaments, but here we are. It's really fun to be in them and raise plenty of money for charity. So it's the best time of the year. We've got the best two of the wild card. So here we are. Kev, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Like you mentioned, we've got all the charity tournaments got in the middle of that, and it is a strange part of the year for Dynasty players because you've got to switch into that redraft, that best ball mindset, and it is funny when you're in your redraft drafts and you can see people are still playing it Dynasty mode, picking the rookies over veterans that are going to easily outscore them. So it's really fun time of the year, but it just shows that we're not too far away from the season. But yeah, it's a very exciting time indeed. And speaking of exciting times, you can see that it's just the best two tonight. There's no Mags. He's having an exciting time in Italy. So make sure that you're wearing your sun cream, Mags. I know you're worried about, obviously, the heat and you being, you live in Scotland, so, you're a little bit more prone to the heat. So, keeping it on the heat for you. We have got a hot one today. We're gonna take it on the Dynasty route, but it is going to have a redraft feel as well. So it's kind of perfect with this time of year. Redraft mindset, but also this ties in really well with Dynasty. We'll be doing a new type of show, actually. We'll be reviewing the standout players from 2022 and highlighting who's going to be this year's equivalent in the aptly title game, who is this year's. So a lot of speculation about who can repeat from last year and be this year's version of that player. So no doubt we're going to have a lot of fun today. And our first who is this year's, I'm going to keep it at the QB to begin with, who is this year's Daniel Jones. So what we mean by this is someone that's never finished inside the top 20, but is a QB1 this season. Ali, who is this year's Daniel Jones?
Well, Kev, I will tell you this year's Daniel Jones is going to be Brock Purdy. Yep, you heard it here first.
Wow.
It's going to be Brock Purdy, a guy that I'm really having a soft spot for. Brock Purdy in Dynasty. I may be mentioning him in a few weeks on one of our shows. Really like Brock Purdy. Got so much confidence in Brock Purdy from a organizational point of view. I think the 49ers absolutely love Brock Purdy, what he was able to do stepping in last year. Absolutely lighting it up. Looked fantastic. When he did step in, he played 6 games from week 13 onwards of the regular season. Quarterback 8. So in terms of points per game, 18.1 points per game. It wasn't the quarterback 8 in terms of points per game, but that's where he finished in the last 6 weeks. He was probably quarterback 12, I think, in points per game. It's really not bad for a guy that had never took a snap in the NFL. Just really like what I saw from Brock Purdy. Obviously not going to get any rushing. So when you gave me this question, this year's Daniel Jones, someone that can finish as a quarterback 1, immediately went to who can the Russian quarterbacks be that can hold down the position and see their upside. But there wasn't really one that stood out to me. So I looked a little bit deeper and I just can't. I keep coming back to Brock Purdy, who's in just such a great offense in the 49ers. It's such a good organization. He is the unrivaled quarterback 1 of this team if he comes back fully healthy for week 1. Well, all the indications are that he is going to be healthy for week 1. He's started throwing again, so hopefully the elbow is absolutely fine. Just looking at last season, in terms of fantasy, doesn't give you any rushing, but in terms of passing ability, 14 total touchdowns in 6 games to end the season was fantastic. I think it was 13 passing touchdowns, 2 in every game and then 3 in the final game. And then in the first playoff game against Seattle, 4 total touchdowns, so 3 passing and 1 rushing. So just shows that he can put it together. And I think if he carries on this trajectory, I can only see him really being sort of a fringe quarterback one with these numbers. You got to think if his wide receiver core stays healthy, obviously got some great weapons in Debo, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is well going to catch plenty of dump off. So for me, he is the day one starter. If he's healthy and if he lasts the season, he's going to be a fringe quarterback one for me and perhaps even higher. So just for someone that you can draft as your quarterback 3, he's really impressive. And I think there is still a chance to get him cheap. I think his keep trade cut is still going in the mid-20s in terms of quarterbacks. There's plenty of quarterbacks going after him that I'd definitely rather him go. There's some going ahead of Brock Purdy that I'd rather Brock Purdy straight up, to be honest. So, really like Brock Purdy. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he's going to give you really good numbers, sort of high quarterback 2, perhaps fringe quarterback 1 numbers. So, he's the guy that I think is going to be this year's Daniel Jones. Over to you, Kev.
Yeah, you caught me off guard on that one because I think obviously Daniel Jones is a rushing QB, Brock Purdy, more of a statue. It's actually quite funny when his jersey was on the Rocky statue and then the 49ers got smashed. It was all for nothing in the end for the Eagles, but that was quite funny seeing, not seeing him get injured, but seeing him get beat in the championship game. But yeah, the guy I went for, a little bit more on the theme of a Daniel Jones archetype, someone that's a potential, I'm not going to call him Konami, but potential rushing upside, is Jordan Love. That's my pick. I think someone that's untapped. He's not someone that I'm massively in on in Dynasty or for this season, but I do think because of that uncertainty, because he's a lottery ticket, he could be great. Like, you can see that the weapons have been upgraded in Green Bay now that Aaron Rodgers is gone. You've got Jaden Reed that's coming, the tight ends. I think they should be using Aaron Jones more as well. Get A.J. Dillon pounding the defense, using Aaron Jones more out of the backfield. So, I think it's a very interesting pick for who I think will be this year's Daniel Jones based on the unknown, really. So he's in his 4th season. He's got a lot to prove. The job's his for this season, and we'll take it from there. But I think in certain roster builds, if you've got two QB1s in Dynasty, let's say you've got, I don't know, Watson and Dak, I think someone like Jordan Love is the ideal QB3 to go for. It's pointless taking someone with low upside in that spot. You might as well shoot for the moon. You're not going to lose anything. He's only going to play 2 games a season for you, probably as your bye weeks if you've got 2 studs. But it's that upside that if he does hit, if he is this year's Daniel Jones, his value is going to spike. He's going to jump right up into the realms of top 15 conversation. So Brock Purdy and Jordan Love, 2 very different players, but answers this question absolutely perfectly as someone that's not being in the top 20, but is a QB1 this season. We'll see if any of us get that right. But we're now going to move on to the next one, and his name's come up already on this show. We've got who is this year's Brock Purdy. And I'm going to kick us off for this one. So when we say Brock Purdy, it's a day 3 backup rookie QB who gets a shot to start by the end of the season. I was able to go first on this and make the pick. So a guy that's come up on previous shows, actually, Stetson Bennett is who I went for on this one. I think if it's an all day 3 guy, backup rookie QB, and I see a clear path for him to be the star. I think with the Rams, first of all, Matthew Stafford, older guy, had injury issues. You look at the team itself. Could they go into a rebuild? I mean, they're not getting draft picks, but they might have in future years. I think if they do fail in a pretty tough NFC West with obviously the Seahawks and the 49ers as playoff teams from last season, you could see where he gets an opportunity to see what they've got in him. There's nothing to lose. You're probably rather going to see what you've got than just play Stafford for the sake of playing Stafford. It could be a full rebuild. It could be that they get rid of Cup and everything, but you just don't know these sort of things. But Bennett's a guy that won at Georgia. He's going to be... I just thought it was a really interesting selection that they brought him in as Stafford's backup. They had Baker in the building as such, someone that was competent and made him competitive. But someone that in Bennett, he won at Georgia. He's got some athletic upside as well. So, he's someone that first came to mind when I thought of someone going late in your drafts that could potentially be the start at the end of the season.
Yeah. So,
who have you got?
So basically, Stetson Bennett was the one that we were both rushing to get. So I had to scramble for another guy, and no one else really fitted the mold other than this guy. And it's more situational, to be honest. A bit like the LA Rams in the same division. Actually, the Arizona Cardinals are a team that look like they're definitely in the rebuilding mode. I think they've got the lowest projected win total heading into the season. See a lot of question marks over Kyler Murray, whether he's going to start the season, whether he's going to play any sort of games the first half of the season, or whether he's going to play at all. I mean, if they get to halfway through the season and Kyler Murray's not got back into the lineup, and they're looking like they're nailed on for the number one pick, I mean, what is the point really in getting Kyler Murray in there to win 3 or 4 games down the stretch? And scupper their chances at Caleb Williams or whoever they want. So it's Clayton Tune is my guy. A lot of people, they say that Clayton Tune is going to get a chance this season. I'm not quite sure about that early on. I think Colt McCoy, when you look at his actual win record, 24 wins, 32 losses, but actually 6-6 as the Cardinals quarterback, which for me really is not bad for the team that he's on. I think it's been a dumpster fire for a couple of years now. So yeah, there's a chance certainly for Clayton Tune to get a few starts this season. And then if you're getting a quarterback, you're taking him in the rookie draft, last round pick, perhaps even undrafted, a guy that could start a game or two this season. That I think the minute he does start a game, his value is obviously going to rise, and then you can perhaps move him on. But yeah, certainly looking at his profile, he's got a decent rushing profile in his time in college, which is great. Obviously, what you're looking for in fantasy. He got better every single year. 4 years as a starter, 3-time as team captain. So you like to see that. Yeah, I think it's going to be the guy. Perhaps if they get off to a bad start, they're going to see what they have. Perhaps after the buy in Clayton Tune, and I think he's the guy that's going to lead him to the number 1 draft pick. I just do. At the minute, feel really sorry for the Cardinals fans having to cheer on Colt McCoy, to pay the money to cheer on old 36-year-old Colt McCoy. But I think at least it's going to be a little bit exciting if Clayton Tune does get the start. He's got everything in his profile. Just obviously a day 3 pick is not great. But yeah, I think he could be the guy that at least gets a couple of starts, other than Stetson Bennett, who I think is a great shout for this question. Yeah, I think Tune is the only other guy that could possibly get a start in 2023.
Yeah, you got to think as well, if the Kyler Murray fallout continues, then it makes sense to put Tune in and lose a few games at the end, rather than put Murray in, who's potentially going to win your games and take you away from a Caleb Williams. Imagine if that happened, that'd be if he did end up leaving after that, it's a double kick in the teeth. So I can definitely see Tune being the start at the end of the season if things go as badly as the Cardinals probably want it to go. So yeah, we're gonna switch up positions now. We're gonna move to running back, and we've got a great one here. Who is this year's Josh Jacobs? So when we was thinking of this, we thought about soon to be free agent running back, murky situation, but actually has an amazing season, a true breakout, and a top 5 finish. So who is this year's Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, it's a pretty easy pick, to be honest. It's a guy that we've been talking about for a couple of years, where it could be the breakout coming. Not quite worked out for him due to injury, but it's J.K. Dobbins for the Baltimore Ravens, who I think are going to be just probably my favorite offense to watch this season, with Todd Monken at the helm. I think it's going to be not just obviously the one-dimensional offense we tend to see. I think it's going to be a lot of passing as well. Going to be really creative, and it's going to be really fun to watch. So my hope is that J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy, because when he's been on the field, he's been exceptional for fantasy, and it's been off the back of really not much PPR at all. I mean, only 25 receptions in 2 seasons. Obviously, the 1 year he missed. So I personally don't think that number will improve. I think they've got a lot of pass catchers on the Ravens. I don't think J.K. Dobbins is suddenly going to turn into a guy who's going to catch 50 catches or 40 catches this year. But on the ground, 5.86 yards per carry in his NFL career so far has been exceptional. He looks absolutely brilliant. He looks all the bit of a top 5 running back in the NFL. I think this offense is going to explode. I think he's going to score plenty of touchdowns if he can score healthy. I think the offense will pass more, but I think that is going to help open up lanes for J.K. Dobbins as well. I think Gus Edwards is going to be involved, but J.K. Dobbins, you hope, is still going to be the lead guy heading into his final year. But a true breakout candidate is certainly J.K. Dobbins. I think he is the ultimate boom-bust player of 2023, a guy that you're having to take early. His price is still right up there, even though he's struggled with injury every year. But I just think that offense as a whole, I think the passing is going to open up more runner lanes for J.K. Dobbins. I can easily see 10 plus rushing touchdowns coming for J.K. Dobbins. And with that, I think from where he is, his value is going to rise and he's going to have a season like Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, J.K. Dobbins, he fits this question absolutely perfectly. I think I like how you mentioned that Ravens are going to be your favourite offense. I know we've got a huge Ravens fan, Tom Strachan, NFL T-Strack coming on very soon. So I like how you've buttered up and planted the seed already to give him a false sense of security when he does come on our show very soon. But yeah, I love the pick of Dobbins, someone with major upside if everything does fall into place for him in this technically new situation. So made it tricky for me to make my pick. I went for Cam Akers as another guy that's going to be a free agent that's got that potential, if everything falls right, to have that top 5 finish. Both Dobbins and Akers, if we think back a little bit, they were both top 7-8 Dynasty running backs. What was it? Either a year or two ago. So we know they've got the talent there. It's just about avoiding injuries and getting back to where they can be off the back of these injuries now. With Akers, it is a tricky one because I can only see him managing this if Stafford and Kupp are healthy, and this is a team that's playing above their expectations as such. I can't see if they go into be a losing side and going into tanking mode, they're more likely to give opportunities to guys like Zach Evans, like Kyron Williams, blow it up and play younger guys over veterans that could potentially keep them in games. So a lot does depend on everything around him falling into place, but I do love the talent he's got as someone that's going as low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3 type. I think that I still believe in that potential. I think he showed it towards the end of last season, being so far removed from the injury. In an offense with Baker Mayfield, they looked really good in terms of rushing, receiving. So I think the talent is there. He's not had the best situations with offensive lines, and that's probably still going to be the case. But I just feel that the talent is there. Let's get him injury-free. Let's get him in the offense with Kupp and Stafford back to high level of play. And anything is possible for Cam Akers, but probably more possible for J.K. Dobbins on this one. So next up, we're going to keep it running back. And again, another really interesting, player pick selection. Who is this year's Ramondre Stevenson? So by that, I mean a backup player that wins the lead role, but also has a top 15 season. I'm up first on this one, and I wanted to take it a different slant. So kind of thinking Ramondre Stevenson, he had that half-decent rookie season, sort of getting into a good second season, then an injury hit, and he got a starting role. So I guess injury-wise, I could have took it down the Samaje Perine route, where I think he's going to have a great season with Javonte Williams battling injuries. And like we mentioned on previous shows, he's such a savvy veteran, does everything really good, nothing great. And I think short Payton offense, he's going to get opportunities to do something. But I want to avoid Samaje Perine and come to this guy. It's more of a hunch than anything, because I think for this guy to be this year's Ramondre Stevenson, it will have to be on the back of an injury to the star who is going way ahead of him in drafts. So the guy I went for is Tank Bigsby. I think he's someone that he's already been getting a lot of praise in camp, which doesn't really mean anything to me, but it just highlights to me again what my thoughts were pre-draft, that he's a big dude, he's fast, he's great at catching passes. And this selection, it's more about ETN than anything. I think the fact that he was averaging 15, 16, 17 touches last season, that's That's not what I expected. I thought it'd be more. I thought it would be a huge bell cow. I thought it'd be used more in the pass game. His target share was in the low 20s. Peterson's got no ties to ETN. They didn't draft him. People lean on ETN and Trev going to college together, that narrative, but is Trevor Lawrence calling the plays, the personnel? I don't think he is. So yeah, Peterson's also technically used the running back by committee when he was in Philly. He was giving guys like Jermichael Hasty touches last season. So yeah, I can see a pitch where it's already a split 60-40 maybe, but you get that injury. I can see Tank being a free down guy like Ramondre was in Damien Harris' absence. All you need is a bit of luck with injury and a slightly better workload. He's in an excellent offensive situation to have a touchdown. So, yeah, who's this year's Ramondre Stevenson? I went a bit crazy for Tank Bigsby. Who was your pick?
To be honest, I just want to say, I don't think you're crazy. Tank Bigsby is your pick. I think is a great shout. I really do. We've seen ETN with his injury struggles. He was very patchy last year. I say in games he looked incredible. Then in games he was sort of scripted out. Didn't produce for fantasy. Tank Bigsby. I think we all like Tank Bigsby. Seemed to do everything well. Maybe not elite, but really well. So I can see him certainly eating into ETN's role. And then if an injury strikes, I think it's a great shout. So with mine, I've gone for a veteran, so slightly different route, but I've gone for a guy who's also in an incredible offense, Rashaad Penny. This guy, I have to say, I'm absolutely drafting him everywhere in all the charity tournaments because I think this guy is going to go crazy this year. And my sort of hot take, although it's not that hot, is I think that DeAndre Swift is going to be underutilized in this offense. I think people are going to be frustrated with Swift if you're an owner, so perhaps get out now. But I think obviously this organization, they obviously traded for Swift at the offseason. I think there was certainly a role to be had, and they only paid a 2025 fourth and a 23 seventh, and I think they got a pick back as well. So they're not super invested in Swift. Then they've also got Kenny Gainwell, who sadly I love Kenny Gainwell, but I don't think the Eagles are super high on Kenny Gainwell going forward. Love to see his usage in the Super Bowl, but I think Penny for me. I think he's the guy that nobody's talking about. Obviously, was signed earlier in the offseason. He's my guy to buy going forward. But obviously, the question with Penny's always been and will continue to be his health, because he has struggled every single year with his health, unfortunately. Because it is unfortunate because when he's been on the pitch, over 6 yards per carry the last 2 seasons when healthy, he just looks incredible in that role. Fantastic running back. I think he beats nearly all the running backs in several different metrics. As I mentioned, super high-powered offense. I think he's going to be the 2-down back. Hopefully he can stay healthy. I can certainly see where Miles Sanders had, was it 10, 11 rushing touchdowns last year, whatever it was. I can see Rashaad Penny returning the same if he can stay healthy. And I think the good thing is, obviously, they've got Jalen Hurts, they've got Swift, they've got Gainwell. I think that he's not going to have to be used all the time like a bell cow where he can get injured. I think they're going to use him in the right way. And I just think from where he's going right now, I just think it's an investment worth making because, with his talent on this offense, I'm excited. Obviously, he's not going to be the pass catcher, but I'm not looking for the pass catcher on this team because Jalen Hurts isn't going to pass the ball to his running back. So I'm not targeting Swift at his ADP. I'm targeting Penny, and he is 100% going to be this year's Ramondre Stevenson, and you can book it.
Oh my God, it's like a left-right good night for me. That obviously we avoided Hannah on last week's show, but she gives Swift some shade and with more shade from him. He's actually my most owned running back in Dynasty, so getting a little bit squeaky with all this talking him down. But I guess the other side of things as well is Rashaad Penny is a guy that I was well in on. Massive true for someone that in the last 7-8 years in terms of rookie models at running back, he was top 10. He was such a good prospect coming out. It never really materialised with what happened in Seattle, but when he's healthy, he's so explosive, such a great runner. He is like Nick Chubb in the sense that when you're watching him rushing, he's unbelievable. And unlike Chubb, he can catch passes. He did show that in college with San Diego State. So yeah, that it would hurt a lot if Swift was nothing and Penny was great, but it would be a slight bump that actually, Penny is a really solid player. As long as the Eagles winning, that's the main thing. But a great pick on that one, Ali. So, final one at running back. Wanted to give one of the lesser known guys a bit of a plug and someone that's further down in your draft. So, want to know who is this year's Jamal Williams. So, this is a guy who's going to have a career. He's a backup running back, but going to be really useful with a high touchdown spike. Who have you got, Ali?
Yeah, so I did struggle a little bit on this one, but I have found a guy that I like. Again, it's a guy that I'm pounding in all the charity tournaments or redraft for this year, because I do think he's got this Jamal Williams role. Even though historically, I think the last 5 or 6 years, going back to Shady McCoy, the running backs on the Bills have been pretty pathetic for fantasy. And they've got a guy that's not going to pass the ball to the running backs either. But I don't care because I'm going for Damien Harris, a guy that doesn't need to catch a ton of passes. I think James Cook is obviously there for that role. But at 190, I don't think he's the goal line back. A lot of people will say Josh Allen is the goal line back, which is kind of true. But I'm going for the Damien Harris, who is heavier at about 215 pounds. And we're talking about a high-powered offense at the Buffalo Bills that are going to score an absolute ton of touchdowns again this year. They're going to have a lot of goal line looks. Hopefully, Josh Allen's not going to steal all of them. And Damien Harris, I can certainly see having upwards of 10 touchdowns if it all works out for him. You look at his competition, Latavius Murray, he's sticking around unbelievably. I think he's 45 years old, and I think he's about 33, 34. Unbelievable how well he's doing at his age. But I don't see a big role for him. I personally think, and I know a lot of people who know me, I don't like James Cook. I've got a share of him just in case it worked out for him.
Love it.
But I think Damien Harris is the best running back on this team. I think Damien Harris was underrated. I think at the Patriots, he'd never let you down when he was put in. I think he's a decent running back. He's an average to good running back. And I think which is good enough on this team for the role that he's going to have on the Buffalo Bills. So, for my pick for Jamal Williams, I'm going for Damien Harris over James Cook. I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed with James Cook this year.
I mean, you absolutely hit it up, nail on the head. I agree with everything you said there. I think just people think back to Damien Harris when he was in college. He was sharing backfields with Josh Jacobs and Najee Harris. He was holding his own. He didn't look out of place in that situation. When he was at the Patriots, obviously, great real life runner, touchdown machine on a not great offense. And we like Ramondre Stevenson. This is a guy that kept Ramondre Stevenson off the pitch for 1.5 years. It was only injury that opened the door for him. So he's a great player. I think he'll do excellent in Buffalo. Latavius Murray is like a cockroach. He never goes away, but he's just always there. But I think that the selection of Damien Harris, it just confirms one thing to me from a dynasty point of view, and that's that what is James Cook? What can he be? He can't be anything. He's a huge sell for me. You mentioned it, rushing QB, pass catching. You can't see him getting touchdowns. They've brought in more weapons in Kincaid as well in the short and intermediate. So, James Cook, if you've got a high exposure to him, it's a damn shame. But my selection for this year is Jamal Williams. So, touchdown spike, backup guy. I went for a name that we rarely speak about, actually, A.J. Dillon, someone that's entering his final year of his rookie deal. Someone that he is a beast. He's built like a beast. He's fast, he's big. He can actually catch pretty well also, but I just think in terms of the goal line, maybe having Jordan Love there as a dual threat option at the goal line makes it a little bit easier for him to get 8, 10, 12 touchdowns, which I know Aaron Jones is decent at rushing touchdowns as well, but AJ Dillon's a tank. That cold weather in Green Bay is perfect for him. just want to see more opportunities for the goal line. And I think that can happen with, if John Love is what I think he can be, I'm expecting a big year from AJ Dillon. And then we'll see what happens when he hits free agency. So, yeah, touchdowns are obviously hard to tell, but AJ Dillon's someone that I'm slightly backing on just because big season in an unknown situation, and then free agency next year, see where he ends up. Take a chance. He's not costing you a lot. He's sort of running back 30s. It's nothing really. He can make easy pivots either way, either moving up to him or moving down from someone else, more risky. So AJ Dillon's a guy I like. I've not always liked him, but I do like him now. Another guy I like as well is Tyreek Hill, and he was a guy that was an absolute star last season. So want to know who is this year's Tyreek Hill? And on that basis, it's a wide receiver who's moved teams and outperforms expectations in 2023. Because to say who's going to be the next Tyreek Hill, just on the basis of being a top 3 wide receiver after moving, it's not going to happen. He's a unicorn. He's an absolute weapon. So, yeah, a guy who I think's moved teams and will outperform expectations in 2023. It kind of fits the narrative of his quarterback who I've been talking up all off season. I've gone for DJ Moore, someone who's been crying out for a QB upgrade his whole career, someone that's had excellent metrics but played with a load of dummies at QB, to be fair. Such a bad catchable ball percentage and QB accuracy. So you have got to give him benefit of doubt for what he's had to play with over his career. Pressure's on for him now, though, I think. So I was listening to, I think it might have been the Bulletproof podcast about DJ Moore earlier today, and they were saying that even though dynasty-wise he's an exciting guy because if it all clicks, it's going to be mega, you could treat him a little bit like a redraft, because if it doesn't go for him right this season, maybe Fields is out the door, maybe it's never going to happen because of 27 and 28 and 5-6 years into the league and not doing anything. He's not been a wide receiver one yet. You've got to think at some point, a little bit like Taylor Swift, am I the problem? Is it I'm the problem, it's me? Is that the line? I'm not going to claim to be a Taylor Swift fan, but she's got some bangers out at the moment. But yeah, DJ Moore, I think it's a make or break season for him. Again, at his cost, it's in a tier where you can easily acquire him or easily move off him. So pick your poison. If you've got Fields as your QB, I would be targeting him. Will he be this year's Tyreek Hill? From the respect of being a top 3 wide receiver, no. But I think he's someone that's going to move teams and do better.
I love that shout, Kev, because actually when the move was made for DJ Moore in that big trade to get the number 1 pick for the Panthers, I didn't like it originally. I think a lot of people got a little bit too excited, and I think that drove up his price too much. But I think it has settled now down to a price that's fair for DJ Moore, and I'm back in now. I've certainly been taking him. I've been taking him for redraft competitions this year. I do really like what they've got. He's by far the best wide receiver on that team, so I love it. I think he's going to have a great year with Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields his ceiling is just so high this year, so love the pick. For my guy, I've gone for a guy that certainly isn't going to hit the heights of Tyreek Hill. He's had a really decent career. He's a seasoned veteran now, and I've gone for Brandin Cooks. The move to the Dallas Cowboys, the boys, America's team. I really like this for I really like this for Brandin Cooks. He was traded for a 4th and a 5th round picks. Not a super high investment, but I think he's the guy that is going to really help the Cowboys take a step forward. Obviously, they've got CeeDee Lamb, which obviously he's going to be the target hog of that team, but there is going to be enough volume going around. Obviously, they've lost Dalton Schultz as a tight end. It's going to take plenty of targets there. There's certainly a role for Brandin Cooks or Michael Gallup to take a step forward. I'm going to put my money on Brandin Cooks at his price. When you look at what he's done in his career, we're talking about him on really pretty poor offenses going forward. You think about the Rams, the Patriots, blah, blah, blah. But for 6 out of 9 seasons, he's finished inside the top 20. So he's a guy that you've been able to draft, have on your team, have as your wide receiver 3. 4 maybe sometimes, and he's just been so consistent for fantasy. So for me, I absolutely love Brandin Cooks this year. You can draft him so late. He's 29 years old, so I think he's still got plenty in the tank. And I think he's going to be a huge target for Dak Prescott on that Dallas Cowboys team that, really crying out for that wide receiver 2 last year. Obviously, Michael Gallup's coming off that serious injury. I think he's going to be better now. He's a year removed from that major injury. But I think there's certainly a role for another wide receiver there. Brandin Cooks is going to come in, command targets. And I can see a top 24 finish from Brandin Cooks this year. If he finished inside the top 24, I really wouldn't be too surprised. So, I think he's going to be the guy that is going to just outperform expectations in 2023.
Yeah, you're a smart guy, Ali. Like you're talking up Brandin Cooks. He's a guy I've always been on forever, despite great situations he's been in. He's done it in bad situations as well in Houston, with Davis Mills, etc. But I like the opportunity. The fact you've got CeeDee Lamb, and then after that, it's a guessing game. I think if Zeke doesn't end up back there, it's going to be more pass heavy. Tight end wise, it's a mess. Like there's no one getting as near to what Schultz got. Gallup's still a question mark. He had that one big season with Cooper. Other than that, it's been replacement level stuff. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb's on a trajectory to take it to not another level. We're not going to say you're going to be Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, but he's got scope to go up even further. But outside that, Brandin Cooks, he's going to be single covered. He's got a history of being a great wide receiver. If he was a top 24 wide receiver, I won't be shocked. But that year when Washington had 3 in the top 25, or it might have been the Panthers. Yeah, it was the Panthers actually, I think. So anything's possible if it all falls right. So, great pick on Brandin Cooks. Not this year's Tyreek Hill, but someone that is going to do better than expected based on his new situation. I'm fully on board with it. If I had to pick out of Cooks and Gallup, it's definitely Cooks easily for me. So next up, we're going to keep it a wide receiver, another very interesting name. We want to know who's this year's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And this is on the basis of someone that's going outside the top 25 currently in Dynasty ADP, who becomes a top 12 in Dynasty ADP at wide receiver next summer. Who you got?
Yes, this is going to be kind of a long shot from where he is right now. I mean, he's not going to play the first 6 games of the season, so
spoiler.
It's going to be. I think a lot of people worked out that it's Jameson Williams. He was a guy that I know Matt absolutely loved. Jameson Williams. I was really high on him pre and post rookie draft, NFL draft. Is my wide receiver 4. Such a shame what happened last year with the injury. Never really got healthy. We saw that one good touchdown, long reception. It didn't really get put the pieces together for Jameson Williams, which was a massive shame. I think there was definitely. Looking forward, Jameson Williams obviously going to miss the first 6 games of the season, which is incredibly disappointed. I think his dynasty value has finally taken that drop where it should have done last year. I know we talked about it a lot. His value just wasn't moving whatsoever, even though he wasn't seeing the field, or when he wasn't targeted, was struggling with the injury. Jameson Williams for me, I think he's still got it. Obviously, it's only year 2 for Jameson Williams, so he's still pretty much a rookie. I think we all love this offense with the Detroit Lions. They're signing wide receivers, or they traded for, was it Denzel Mims this week, which is quite funny. It shows you where their wide receiver core is outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just think there's a role where Jameson Williams comes back completely healthy, is motivated. I think there is a massive role on this team for a wide receiver 2 to come in and be explosive. Almost like you're talking about with the Bengals, they've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, plenty of like DK Metcalf, DK Lockett. There's plenty of teams where the wide receiver 2, like your Eagles, is incredibly useful. And I just think with Jameson Williams, what we've seen in his final year at college with that 1,500-yard season, absolutely smashed it. He's just got another level to go up on. He's absolutely rapid. I just want to see him healthy on the field, motivated. I just think in this offense, We really like Jared Goff. I just think there's a role where perhaps not top 12, perhaps there's a bit of a reach to be top 12 next year, although he's going to be the right age. I think when you look at the dynasty landscape, you've got a lot of wide receivers who are fringe wide receiver ones right now that are getting towards 30 years old, or they're already now reaching 30 years old. So you've got like Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs. There's a lot of players there. I just think they're going to continue to drop because of their age. And it's the likes of Drake London, if he can put a season together, and Jameson Williams, who are the right age, the right profile. They've done it in college. They've got the draft capital, where I think if they put it together this season, can vault up to be a wide receiver one in terms of dynasty value. So he's my pick. It's a bit of a long shot, obviously, when he's only going to play just over half the season, but I think there is a chance where he can be ranked as a low wide receiver one come this time next season.
Yeah, I'm not in on the player at his previous costs and his valuation, but he's got to a stage now where there has got to be some interest there, because you got to think, before the announcement he was getting banned, he was still considered top 20 wide receiver. So it just shows that he is a bit of a volatile asset, and if he can show anything, the people that have obviously dropped him in the rankings, they'll put him back up there because they had that conviction to keep him higher than lots of rookie wide receivers that performed a little bit like Christian Watson on the basis of one touchdown, one catch, a couple of rushes, a player that got called back. So I don't hate it from that point of view. He's the right age to make that jump as well, and it would take something crazy like an Odell Beckham type season to do it. But like you said, there's a lot in his way. He factors in his pluses, really, that there's the older guys that are going to come down, and there will be space for someone to make that step. So I don't hate it. I'm not like falling in love with it either, but it's a good process play. And it's a little bit like my selection. Like, I'm not massively in love with this guy at all, but he's someone that I can see the community really getting behind if he continues to make a couple of splash plays, a couple of nice blocks, and some highlight plays. So I went for George Pickens as a guy that I think he can really capture the imagination of the community and make that rise into a top 12 wide receiver. Now, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek because I love Deontay Johnson still. I think he is the main man there. I can't see him going away. He's commanded 140, 150 targets every season of his career, so he's got a ton of talent. Kenny Pickett's a problem, but we'll look past that for this selection. We're going on the basis that everything hits. George Pickens is a guy that does the splash plays, does the highlight plays, makes nice blocks on the outside, like I said. I see a little bit of DK Metcalf in him, in the sense he had a slowish rookie season, and then he exploded year two. I don't think it will be exactly the same, but we're playing a guessing game here. Who's this year's Amon-Ra St. Brown? Who's going to make that big jump? If he has a really good season, if he hits nearly double-digit touchdowns, 1,200 yards, 90 catches, something like that, which is a really decent season, by the way, he's going to be in that top 12. People love this guy. Like, we saw that at parts towards the end of last season was considered fringe top 15, and he'd not done a lot. So, yeah, George Pickens is my pick. We'll have to see if he gets there. I'm not too sure. I think in terms of dynasty for him, he is a guy that you're very happy with in your flex, because he's a guy that he can potentially win you a week if he goes off. In the flex, he's not hurting you as much as if he's in your top three. So just be mindful about your roster builds with George Pickens, because he's that volatile asset that could either be great and make the jump, or it could be pretty poor as well. Speaking of poor, this guy rhymes with poor. Want to know who's this year's Sky Moore? Well, hey. So, yes, Sky Moore. We could have picked loads of wide receivers with this name, but we thought Sky Moore's pretty funny because it's another one of Matt Thornton, our old co-host. Greatest hits. RIP, Matt. We love you. Sky Moore, we're thinking a top 50 wide receiver who's a rookie who ended up having a dreadful 2023. little bit like Terrace Marshall did a few years back. See, I'll get myself into it. So this one's really tricky for me because I wanted to go different from you, and I had a feeling that you was going to pick a guy that I could have spoke about as well. So I know I was buttering up T Stracula, but I'm coming for him here. Zay Flowers, I went from this. It's not that I hate the talent, and I do think the situation it's exciting, it's unpredictable. There is scope for him to be great. And by all reports, he's standing out. He's the main man. But I'm a Bateman guy. I'm a Mark Andrews guy. I'm a Lamar guy. It's tricky for everybody to hit. Odell Beckham's still there. If he's back healthy, he's still decent. He's still got a ton of talent in his locker for the big play. If we reckon that Dobbins could be great again, or great for the first time, then it can't be everyone. And I think it's just my affinity to Rashaad Bateman that I can see it going more that way than the Zay Flowers way, especially as a rookie, someone that did it 4 years in a poor conference. His best season, I think, was as a senior or in his third season. But a guy that came after 4 seasons, I know we're going to say Chris Larvey came after 4 seasons, etc. But the data is there. If you come out after 3, you've got a better chance than 4. There's obviously going to be outliers, but the data says if you're coming out after 3, you've got better talent. Flowers came out after 4. A lot of uncertainty, so this could be completely wrong. But I think if I'm going for someone that's got a high range of outcomes, I'll take Zay Flowers. Your guy probably fits the bill slightly better, but I actually quite like Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah, well, I do for Dynasty, but in terms of 2023, it's going to have a dreadful year. And I'll tell you why.
Terrace Marshall, come on.
Terrace Marshall 2.0. No, I don't mind Jonathan Mingo. And again, I like him. There's a lot of things that tick the boxes. Draft capital, top 40 draft capital. His profile's fine. 4 years at Ole Miss, as you mentioned just then. Pretty ordinary production, to be honest. He was the 5th wide receiver selected in the draft, which for a lot of people was a big surprise. But the main reason that I'm out for him in 2023, and in fact, he's a guy that I'd probably like to buy halfway through the season if he starts slowly, is just because of the rookie quarterback as well. Bryce Young, obviously, number 1 pick. I think he's going to be a great NFL quarterback. But in terms of fantasy in year 1, I think personally, I've avoided him in all of my charity tournaments. I think I'm just not expecting big production from Bryce Young in year 1. I think the Panthers have got a really good defense. I think they're going to lean on that. And I think they're going to lean on the run game as well. So the only person that I'm targeting for the Carolina Panthers is Miles Sanders, because I just think it's going to be a run-first team, and I'm not expecting big production from the quarterback. And on top of that, I think the wide receivers that are going to score, I think is going to be your guy, Adam Thielen. I think he's going to be number 1.
When you say your guy, you've got to be more specific on the Panthers, Ali.
Well, that's very true because you've got several. But Adam Thielen, I think he's well in his 30s now, but they paid him absolutely handsomely. I think he's going to be the red zone guy. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1, but I think his stats are still not going to be great. You've got DJ Chark, obviously trying to rejuvenate his career. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 2. And you've also got Hayden Hurst as well. I think he's going to get targets. He's going to earn them targets. I think he's a really decent tight end. So just in terms of year 1, I think for this year, Jonathan Mingo is a guy that people are getting excited about. They see the draft capital. They think it's going to be a great link up with Bryce Young, which it well could be. But I think for a guy that's going top 50, I just think it's a crowded room. There's not going to be many targets going about. I think he could emerge late. So, yeah, I would personally be buying him halfway through the season. But I think he's going to have a poor season. So, for me, he is this year's Sky Moore, a guy that I'm trying not to get for this year. But in terms of Dynasty, I'm with you, Kev. I do like him.
You just know what's going to happen. Mingo's going to bust, and it's Terrace Marshall season, because I think it's one of them two for the big slot role. So we'll just have to see how it pans out. And I could end up being wrong twice or 4 times on a Panthers wide receiver. But we're going to switch positions now. We're going to move to tight end, and A name that's not been spoken a lot about on this show over the past year or two. We're going to say, who is this year's Albert Okwabuna? Or who is this year's Albert O? The top 24 tight end who completely falls off the map and has a disastrous season.
Yeah, so it's not a guy that I want to talk about in such a negative way because it's been a guy that I've really loved trying to big him up the last perhaps 3 years, and it's not working. He's gone to a team. I'm talking about Irv Smith, by the way. He's gone to a team in the Bengals. Hayden Hurst has left. There's obviously people are putting 2 and 2 together. They're coming up with 4. The answer's actually 5. He's going to be a complete bust on that team. He went from tight end 32 to tight end 24 overnight with the signing to the Bengals. That just shows you where he should be. He should be tight end 32. He had the opportunity for the Vikings, never managed to put it together. They ended up trading for, obviously, TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, in his only healthy season, and this is the problem with Irv Smith, he's never going to stay healthy. And his only healthy season was his rookie year back in 2019. And since then, he's only managed to be on the field for 21 games in 3 years. You're talking an average of, seven games per year. There's been a year where he missed completely. I just think with Hayden Hurst gone, he earned himself 70 targets last year. I mean, what really are we saying the ceiling is for Irv Smith? I think the Bengals have still got the 3 really good wide receivers. Joe Mixon's back. He's going to command targets as well. Hayden Hurst was tight end 21. I think that is Irv Smith's ceiling right now. And he's just in the dynasty dead zone. So do you really want a guy on your roster that the ceiling is a low tight end 2? I mean, it's just not for me. So Irv Smith would be a guy that I'm selling right now if I did own him on any of my rosters, which I don't think I do. But he's the guy that I think is going to be out the Albert Irv this year, where people are bigging him up because of the situation. A, can he stay healthy? And B, what is the ceiling for Irv Smith?
Yeah, he's at a spot where he's taking on a lot of risk for not a lot of gain. So I agree with that. I think Irv Smith, I can't believe he's come up on the past couple of shows as well. Like, absolute crazy, but he's come up for the right reasons, which are the wrong reasons. But yeah, Albert O, when I was thinking about this, I kind of thought about a situation which is maybe there's been a change, and that got me thinking about the Colts. A prospect that I quite liked, actually, Jelani Woods. He was, I think, my tight end 2 with the class he came out above. Greg Dulcich, actually, but yeah, I just think with Jelani Woods, it's a new situation. It could be the tight end 1 in Indy, but that room traditionally just been a mess. They've added Will Mallory this offseason I really like. There's Kylan Granson, there's Miley Cox. You've got a Russian QB, so it's there's potentially going to be less volume going around. I think it's going to be concentrated a lot around Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor, and everything else after that's kind of guesswork, and I'm going to have to get really lucky. I love Anthony Richardson, but I can't imagine it being a high volume pass offense in year 1. So yeah, Jelani Woods, a guy that I can easily see him being on this Albert O trajectory where he's an absolute monster, big dude, fast dude, but just it might take him a little bit longer to actually find his place, find his home. It might be a second team in a couple of years' time, but Albert O, someone I'm still in on in terms of someone that's cheap, that's going to change his situation next offseason. Maybe we'll be saying the same about Jelani Woods in a couple of years' time. So don't give up, but don't be expecting anything this season. If you're tight end 3 on a contending roster, move off him. If worst case, trade him for Irv Smith. Joking. So we're going to move on to our final Who Is This Year's. We're going to keep it at tight end. From Who Is This Year's, Evan Engram. So this is a guy that's currently outside of the top 20 ADP in Dynasty rankings, but who will finish as a top 6 tight end, which when you think about it, it's not too difficult. You've just got to have a bit of touchdown luck and 50, 60 receptions with a bit of a down season for some of the guys going above. So I went for Gerald Everett, someone that's a veteran guy, someone that's in a great offense, much like England was last season. Someone that's had a lot of hype as an athletic guy. Someone that is in a great opportunity. Whenever he comes to do mock drafts every offseason for time, it's always Chargers tight end's a great spot. Chargers tight end's a great spot. It is a great spot. Gerald Everett's got it. There's been a lot of talk that Quentin Johnston going there. I think someone said the biggest winner was Gerald Everett. Well, I don't know if it was the OC or the head coach said that, but they was really happy with getting Quentin Johnston for how much it was going to open it up for Gerald Everett underneath, across the middle, etc. So, yeah, he's my sneaky guy that's going to be top 6 tight end this season. It will need a lot of luck because he's got 2.5 great wide receivers. We're not going to count Mike Williams as a GOAT with Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston. But, yeah, Gerald Everett, sneaky guy, taking him all the redraft leagues, all the best ball leagues I can. Happy days.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm shocked that he's outside the top 20. Gerald Everett is a guy that we've historically liked Gerald Everett, the athletic profile, situation that he's in. I think the talent is there as well. So there's certainly, I'd love to take a shot on Gerald Everett this year, making it certainly define expectations. I think that's a great pick. Mine is probably a little bit deeper, but it's a guy that has done it before. A lot of guy that people are just not talking about whatsoever anymore, and it's Mike Gesicki. He's had 5 years in the league, and 3 out of the 5 years he's actually finished as a tight end 1, and then it was two seasons he finished as the tight end 7 and tight end 9 in 2020 and 2021. Obviously had the down year last year, which is why a lot of people aren't talking about him, and the situation landed at the Patriots. A lot of people are saying, well, that's not good for his career. They've still got Hunter Henry there. But looking deeper at it, Mike Gesicki is almost not like a tight end either. He's almost like a wide receiver. He's not going to be in line blocking because it's something that he can't do. So I actually like the situation. Not big on Mac Jones as a fantasy producer, but the Patriots really lack quality wide receiver targets. Sorry to say it, but Juju for me isn't great. I don't think he's going to come. He's not the target hog that perhaps DeAndre Hopkins, if he'd have landed on the Patriots, would have been. We've also got Devontae Parker, who they've just locked up, Tyquan Thornton as well. Players like that who really are not amazing. I think there's a great chance for Mike Gesicki to see really a viable role in this offense and see some quality targets. So there's a real realm of possibility that I can see Gesicki possibly being the second target in that offense if he hits the ground running. You then look at the offense as a whole. Bill O'Brien has taken over as offensive coordinator, which I really like. I think he's you're gonna see a slight uptick in production from the New England Patriots on what was an absolute shoddy offense last year. So for me, it's Mike Gesicki, a guy that's been there and done it before, that I can see sneaking into being a tight end 1 and perhaps a high tight end 1.
A sneaky deep pick there from I like it. It's funny with Gesicki. He's such an athletic guy, but he just never makes any yards after catch. It's like he's got all this power under his bonnet, and he's just got the handbrake on at all times. So if he can release handbrake, he's maybe got a chance to really skyrocket up your draft boards. So yeah, that brings us to the end of tonight's show, where we've played the game Who Is This Year. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as me and I did bringing this together. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow and subscribe to us on Twitter and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty. Join us every week for our show via podcast, Twitter and YouTube. Thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon.